Chapter 3 The Mandalorian Crisis. As the Federation fleet met the blockading fleets of the Crusade, the beginning of what appeared to be a space battle emerged as an opening in the blockade came. The Condor swooped down into Mandalorian space and into the atmosphere of Mandalore itself. The Condor weaseled his way past the Mandalorian ships. They could hear a voice over the Condor's comm system of a Mandalorian man. Federation Mandalorian Bay landing. Condor land over in Bay 10. An escort will be waiting for your landing. The comm went silent as Brando and SS-19 flew into the Condor, right into the landing bay. The doors above quickly locked. SS-19 was flying forward, falling to the ground when they had landed and extended landing gear. Daenerys and Vinchu exited the ship to be met by a group of Mandalorians. A woman in gray armor with white stripes across the helmet and chest, holding a sniper rifle, had some sort of cloak and a hood, greeted them. "Greetings, Jedi. I am Nori Itera, commander of the Federation Mandalorian forces here on Mandalore. Under normal circumstances, we will welcome you in a kind of way, since Mandalore has maintained ties with the Federation. We have held prime ministers since the time of the High Republic. The election has been interrupted in a way we haven't seen since the end of the Imperial Civil Wars. The Senator, my sister Silk Itera, has been kidnapped by the suspected conspirator, Dazzle Street of Clan Shiza." Daenerys Tran responded calmly. "Do you know where the Senator is being held by the Crusade? And are you able to lend us some of your soldiers to get to the Senator?" Nori nodded and said, "There is a main control tower in the center of Mandalore. If we can get to that and the main palace to the throne room, chances are the Crusade are holding her in there." Finchu said, "With enough firepower and our lightsabers, a team of us should be able to break into the throne room." Nori yelled out, "Darth Lactus Shiza, a Mandalorian white armor and a red jumpsuit that had a black helmet with yellow trim, came forward. It sounded like a voice on the comm system when he spoke. "Yes, Commander?" Nori ordered him, "You will lead a group of our men with the Jedi to the palace to face your sister. You must redeem the honor of your clan for this betrayal against Mandalorian democracy." Garth nodded and said, "Yes, Commander." He turned to about 5 other Mandalorians and motioned them to follow Nori. Then they turned to Daenerys and Vinchu and said, "There, you have your team now, Jedi." Daenerys nodded, and together with Vinchu they followed Darth Lactus and his group of Mandalorians through the domed cities of Mandalore to the heart of the city, the great palace of Mandalore. Upon entering, Garth and his squad of Mandalorian soldiers fired upon the Crusade Mandalorians. Daenerys Tran ignited his green lightsaber. The blade hummed as he deflected the Crusade shots. Vinchu followed suit with the silver hilt. It flew open as the blue light came, igniting its blade, deflecting the Mandalorian shots back. Garth and the Jedi fought their way to the throne room. When they arrived, the Mandalorian woman in white armor they had seen from Terrace and the Opticon stood before them. She said, "Looks like all my enemies have gathered in one room. You are all going to die a painful death with the Senator." She would throw a woman in a blue robe with brunette hair and tan skin onto the floor in front of them, standing up from the throne room. Garth yelled out, "Sister, you don't have to do this." Dazzle responded, "These pigs dishonor the Mandalorian way, allowing it to become something it really isn't since the Yuzan Fallen Wars. We haven't had a Mandalore because the Federation Prime Ministers have taken over everything. We are no longer Mandalorians, Garth." Garth looked over to the other Mandalorians in his party and at the Jedi. He put his 2 blaster pistols into their holsters and raised his hands. Garth moved towards his sister and said, "I believe in the old way, sister. But allying yourself with the Cuts cartel and rallying our people in anarchy is not the way to choose." Dazzle shot at the floor near her brother and said, "The clans play favorites and are compromised into the pockets of the Federation. Yes, the cartel is no better, but we plan on reforging Mandalore without the cartel when this is over. I will kill you if you try to stop me, brother. Darth slowly moved to his sister's side, then turned around and drew his dual Beskar pistols and said, "Of course not, I'm on your side," he laughs. "Just delivering your Jedi for you." At that moment, Dazzle and Garth started blasting upon the 5 Mandalorians guarding Vinshu and Daenerys. As the Jedi got closer to Dazzle and Garth, they managed to take down the Mandalorian guards, seeming to be more skilled than the average Mandalorian. Vinshu managed to grab the senator and escape the throne room, while Daenerys held off the 2 Mandalorians. Daenerys would use the Force to fling Garth across the room and out of the window behind the throne room. Dazzle would latch on to Daenerys as they struggled in the throne room. Vinshu would escape down into the city, retracing their steps to get back to the Federation base at the Site 10. As Dazzle kicked Daenerys down a flight of stairs, Garth returned and said, "There's no time, Dazzle. Commander Nori is launching her counterattack. We are going to lose the palace quickly. We must retreat if we are going to start the war for Mandalore." Dazzle let Daenerys go, who would escape and regroup with Vinshu Blessed and the Senator. Senator Silka and her sister Commander Nori were reunited. Commander Nori said, "You have rescued the Senator. You are in my debt, Jedi. My forces are pressing a counter-assault to the Crustad. These skirmishes and our aggressive negotiations have led to the beginning of a civil war. It would appear the Death Watch has returned under Clan Shiza and their supporters. I had my doubts about Garth, but I did not want to banish the entire clan." Daenerys said, "We need to get Senator Silka off Mandalore. She is in danger the longer she is here. She would be better protected in Coruscant." Vinshu responded, "My master is right. The new Jedi Order would ensure she is well protected, and the Federation has a stronger hold in Coruscant and the core." Commander Nori nodded and said, "I agree for my sister to come with you, but you must go fast. Our counterattack will only open up the blockade once more. If you miss the pocket, then you'll be trapped in Mandalore until we finish fighting this war. Mandalorian ships and pilots are clever. You're going to want to jump base outside the Federation before going to Coruscant, or you may risk having the Federation being fully sucked into this conflict. We do not want a war here." Brando, overhearing it all while cleaning his ship, said, "I know a backwater planet will disappear, but for transporting a senator and going out of my way, I'm going to have to make that 25,000 credits, Daenerys." Daenerys nodded. "Let's proceed then." Vinshu, Daenerys, Brando, and Senator Silka boarded the Condor. As the corner started up and the counterattack began, the final series of skirmishes between the Federation and Mandalorians would begin. The Crustad forces began in the city streets of the domed cities as they did in the skies. Mandalorian ships fired upon one another as a promising opening could be seen. The Condor jumped into hyperspace. It seemed to be traveling quite the distance. The ship came out of hyperspace early, drifting into dark space. Senator Silka said, "What's wrong? Why did we come out of hyperspace before landing at our destination?" SS-19 beeped, and Brando said, "Hyperspace is broken again. SS-19 will go fix it. We aren't too far from our destination. We'll be at the dirt ball of Jakku before you know it." Daenerys Tran said, "Patience is not a bad thing. I am sure we can have much needed repairs before we land." Brando would land the ship in the junkyard that was known well by the smugglers. SS-19 would move to the hyperdrive. Brando would exit the ship and go talk with some junk dealers on Jakku. Vinshu asked the senator, "How did you wind up getting captured by the Shiza Mandalorians?" Senator Selka responded, "I was in the palace when the crisis began. Naturally, as the Mandalorian senator of the Federation, they chose me as their hostage. Counselor and head of state, Mikhail Moscovici, promised a safe resolution, exhausting all other options that he had to the Jedi. That is how we came to meet." Vinshu nodded, and they would follow Daenerys Tran out of the spacecraft. Brando looked at them and said, "We've got a place to dock. Me and SS-19 is going to stay with the ship. I've got some connections on this side of Jakku. I figure we'll get it up and running in no time." Daenerys and Vinshu walked to the junkyard, black market. negotiating smugglers and merchants. Senator Silka caught up to Danaeus and Vinshu. She said, "I'm going to come along with you." Danaeus turned to her and said, "It would be safer for you to remain with the ship." Silka responded, "I may be a senator, but I am also a man of law and can handle myself." Finch responded, "Beskar would have helped on this mission." Silka barked out, "I may not wear Beskar, but I know how to use this blaster like any other Mandalorian." They came to a merchant area and saw Rodian selling speeder bikes. They would go and exchange credits to get 3 speeder bikes. Danaeus said as they got on the bikes, "I think he charged me twice. The asking price because I paid in Republic credits and not hot currency." The 3 of them sped through the desert to the nearest community where they would go for food and supplies to bring back the condor. As they were coming back, they would be intercepted by another speeder bike, which caused Silka to lose balance and fall off her speeder bike. Danaeus would be directly hit with the speeder bike as he would force jump off the craft and ignite his green lightsaber. Vinshu would slow down as he stopped. He would see a double-bladed red lightsaber ignite and a dark cloak band standing before his master, and the senator trying to get to their feet. Vinshu would catch up with them as the battle started. Vinshu jumped off the speeder bike and ignited his blue lightsaber, joining the battle. As he got closer, he noticed the Zabrak with black skin and white markings assaulting his master. Soon the Zabrak had started battling both Jedi. Danaeus Tran yelled out to the senator, "Get back to the ship!" Senator Silka would hustle to her speed bike and jump on and speeding back to the Condor. Danaeus and Vinshu continued to battle the Zabrak Dark Jedi. Danaeus used Force Push on the Dark Jedi, who in return used Force Push on Vinshu, sending him flying back. Danaeus would kick sand in his eyes and yell out to Vinshu, "Get out of here and go with the others." Vinshu would gain his footing and jump on the speeder, racing to the ship. Danaeus and the Zabrak's blade met once again as Danaeus was defending each blow from the furious crimson red lightsaber. The 2 blades constantly swinging against him. Danaeus would force jump backwards to his bike and use another force push to push the Dark Jedi back. Danaeus Tran hopped on his speeder and raced to join the others at the Condor. Danaeus sped past the merchants junkyard, arriving at the Condor. Brando yelled out, "I just got parts loaded up to the ship, but the hyperdrive is not fixed." Danaeus jumped off his bike and said, panting, "Any way to fix it while we are at the fight?" Brando frowned and said, "Yes, we are going to the city ducks. I'm not sure what you wrestled up in the desert. I don't want to find out. All aboard, let's hit this rodeo on the road." They ran near the ship. SS-19 was working away on the hyperdrive. While Brando got into the driver's seat, he looked to the others and said, "Anyone know how to co-pilot the ship?" The senator got in the co-pilot seat and said, "I've flown a few fighters and transport ships at the academy." The Condor took off as it reached space. Brando would leave the captain's seat and said, "Senator, take over. I need to help SS-19 speed things up. If company shows up, we're going to need someone in the turret." Vinshu said, "I can give the turret a go. I flew some of the Titan Jedi fighters. It can't be too different." It would not be long before a cloaked fighter was on them. It was barely noticeable. Senator Silka said in a wary tone, "I think that thing from the desert is watching us. I picked something up on the radars, but I can't seem to see anything." Vinshu got up and moved towards the turret, preparing for potential conflict. Danaeus took the co-pilot seat, putting his hand on the shoulders, trusting the force would be calm. "We have made it this far." The Condor would be hit by a group of identified fighters. Vinshu would take a breath and trust in the force to guide him. He would pick off the first 3 fighters. The Condor would be hit a couple times, but taken out by 2 more ships. The Condor would be hit repeatedly again, and Vinshu managed to pick off the remaining fighters. Brando ran to the cockpit, kicking the senator out of the seat. SS-19 sprayed Danaeus with water, which he took the hint and returned to his seat. The Condor maneuvered its way out of sight of the unknown target and jumped into hyperspeed. The Condor would stop in Coruscant space and land near the Jedi Temple. Daenerys Tran bowed to Brando as he, Vinshu, as well as Senator Selka left the ship and said, "May the Force be with you, smuggler. The credits will be transferred to your account before you leave Coruscant." Brando nodded to the Jedi and said, "Good luck on your mission. After I refuel, I'm headed back to Kessel to do another run." Daenerys, Vinshu, and Senator Selka traveled to the Jedi Council chambers. They were greeted with curiosity. Grandmaster Elva Merlin said, "Welcome back to Coruscant, Senator. It is good to see you have made it out of Mandalore. I trust Daenerys and his Padawan treated you well?" Senator Selka bowed and said, "Master Elvin, I thank you for your welcome. Your Jedi did their jobs. Master Daenerys and his Padawan helped rescue me from the Krustad and Clan Shiza. I am afraid the peaceful resolution to the Senate and the Jedi Council proposed in Mandalore may no longer be an option. Master GHS, is something transpiring in Mandalore?" Senator Selka continued to speak, sounding concerned. "The history between the Mandalorian people and the Federation has been complicated. No Mandalorian rising to the title of Mandalore since the Yuzan Vong Wars and the Prime Minister's changing Mandalorian lifestyles over the generations has given rise to radical groups under the leadership of Dazzle Street and Clan Shiza, as well as their brother Garth Lockness. The Hutt cartel has fully backed the Krustad." Erno Ling said calmly, "I believe the Senate should be notified immediately of the status of the Mandalorian crisis. It sounds that things are worse than we may have anticipated." Senator Silka responded, "The Civil War is beginning as we speak. The Federation, Mandalorian Armed Forces, and Navy are engaging in combat with the Krustad. This matter requires urgent attention." The Cathar Master Kafar responded, "The new Jedi Order will seek upon your concerns, and one of our own will attend the Senate meeting with you." Chiron Drago, the Mon Cali Master, looked over to Daenerys and Vinshu and asked, "I sense your trip to retrieve the Senator had been deterred." Daenerys Tran responded, "Yes, Master. We did not want to bring the Krustad fleets to Coruscant. We got sidetracked at Jakku and had some complications with the hyperdrive." Master Wolfzaz responded next in a deep tone, "There is something troubling about your time at Jakku, I sense." Daenerys looked to Vinshu and then back to the council and said, "Yes, Master. The Hutt's influence in matters seemed to be cleared as they attacked us when they were trying to leave Jakku, but there is something that happened before that is quite hard to explain." Malar Questi looked to Vinshu then asked, "Padawan, what did you witness in the desert of Jakku?" Vinshu spoke openly and honestly. "I see the dark Jedi ambushes. I could barely believe it with my own eyes. Whatever it was, he was a Zabrak man who was cloaked and wielded a crimson red lightsaber with two blades. He moved just like us and was trained in the ways of the Force and Jedi arts." A long pause and silence came over the council. Then the Grand Master, Master Elvin Merlin, said, "There could be many explanations for this dark Force-sensitive figure. It has been over a century since anyone has witnessed such an event. The Council will meet on what you have shared with us, and in the meantime, we would like Daenerys to consult the archives to learn more about what he witnessed on Jakku. The Padawan Vinshu will accompany Senator Silka to the Senate to petition on the Mandalorian crisis." Daenerys nodded and bowed. "Yes, Master." Vinshu and Senator Silka bowed and would exit the council chambers. Vinshu and Senator Silka went to the Senate chambers. There could be hundreds, maybe thousands of pods seen floating as they stood on one of them. Chatter could be heard as the head of state, Mikhail Moscovici, a man with pale skin, high cheekbones, and white hair, and purple robes, spoke. "We now turn to the floor of the representative from Mandalore, Senator Silka, to give us an update on the situation at Mandalore." Senator Silka paw raised. Vinshu quietly stood beside her. Senator Silka said in a confident and firm tone, "The Krustad Mandalorian rebels who believe strongly in the Death Watch of old have risen to lead a blockade on our home world. As we speak, the Krustad assault on the Federation Mandalorian forces is igniting a civil war. I fear there is no time to waste in taking action. The longer we debate, the more Mandalorian lives that will be claimed in this conflict. The Hutt's cartel has directly been involved in funding and reinforcing the Krustad forces. An uprising against democracy has occurred. The people support the backing of an elected prime minister if this conflict can come to an end swiftly. I was held hostage by the Shiza clan and their leader Dazzle Street. I advise that the Senate do not take my testimony in the events of this Mandalorian crisis life. Alexander Sell, a man of medium complexion and brown balding hair, dressed in red and green robes, said, I think that sending fleets and armies of Federation soldiers would further antagonize the Mandalorian rebels and cartel. Can we really risk an all-out war? The head of state, Mikhail, responded. The Senator Alexander Sell from Corellia raises a strong point. We risk the potential of an all-out war if we respond to the Krustad cartel. Damian Dusk, a man with short blonde hair and a military cut, responded. I feel that the senator from Mandalore raises a strong point. If we do not act, a civil war will emerge. If we do not back the Federation Mandalorians, we will lose democracy in Mandalore and maybe even the entire Outer Rim. The senator from Corellia, in respect, raises a good point. If we attack the Krustad, if winning a civil war may come after this, the Hutts are not in a position we would want them to be in. Head of State Mikhail noted. Good position, Senator Lord Mantell. Derek Jones, a dark brown complected man with gray, short, and curly hair, said, Dear Senators of the Federation, who would we be to let Mandalore suffer the fate at the hand of the criminal scum known as the cartel? Their attempt to take over the galaxy, while it is vulnerable, should we not look for aid at this time? The senator began to argue. Then Head of State Miguel responds, We will have to call a vote upon those in favor say yes to sending military aid into Mandalore. Senator Silka spoke out a bit upset. My people do not have time for you to debate. I am going to bring those who are allies in Mandalore to assist her. Senator Silka left the pod and headed for the first ship that would take her to Mandalore. Vinci would try to catch up to her and talk reason into her. Meanwhile, Daenerys Tran, looking through the archives, had learned a variety of Jedi had gone missing or left the Jedi Temple without completing their training, some believed to have turned to the dark side. Daenerys came across a file of a youngling, a Zabrak that was intercepted on a mission to Eridonia. Kafar states that someone got to the child before he did, but could not discover how the child went missing. Daenerys would wonder if the Force-sensitive was the same dark Jedi that he had seen on Jakku. But if so, who trained him? Daenerys knew some of the Masters had deflected from the Order, but never heard of any of them being dark Jedi. Daenerys rubbed his beard and left the archives, then saw Vinshu and Senator Silka talking down the hallway. He went to join them. Daenerys interrupted by saying, Everything all right here? Vinshu looked at Daenerys and said, The Senate cannot come to a resolution on the Mandalorian crisis. I am trying to convince Senator Silka not to return to Mandalore alone. Daenerys responded calmly, All transports have been locked down to Mandalore. I know times are hasteful, but we must remain patient. Senator Silka responded with a sign, I am going to the cantina until the Senate makes up their mind. Silka walked off. Then Daenerys said to Vinshu, Let her go. I sense she is true to her word. As much as her pride wants to go, she knows it will not do her people any good. We will wait on what the Senate says before making our next move. I am sure the Jedi Council will have further instructions following the decisions made by the Senate. Vinshu responded, Yes, Master. Meanwhile, far away, in the distant, isolated vacuum of space on the planet of Korriban, in the ruins of a once bustling ghost town, in the dead desert of Zabrak, the dark Jedi is seen standing next to a dark-cloaked man. The dark-cloaked man is exposed on the torso, his heart visible, held in place like a machine, his chest and stomach a mix of human flesh and cyborg machine. The beating of his heart is heard as you stand close to him. His robes slightly hide in the exposed torso. His face has a metal plate embraced, the metal mask covering his somewhat fleshy human face. His eyes are yellow with a hue of red. Even his eyes look like they are starting to decay. The white-silver spiky hair of his beginning to fade and grow light. The cyborg-like man says, "Cosmos, my acolyte, you have failed again. You finish your actions almost expose the Sith. If you do not do as commanded, then you would have already earned your place as my apprentice. Your anger can make you powerful if you control it, but you must prove yourself if you want to learn the true art of the dark side of the Force." Cosmos nodded to his master and said, "My apologies, my master. What are we doing on this dead place of a rock?" The cyborg man responded, "This is Korriban, the ancient home of the Sith. Our kind have not stepped foot on here in over a century before our descent into the unknown reaches of space. We will begin here in the ruins of Dreshdale, once an imperial city at its peak." Cosmos looked around at the ruins of the settlement and said, "You have plans for these ruins and for Korriban, Darth Malphus?" Darth Malphus, the cyborg man, smirked and said, "You have much to learn, acolyte. I have another mission for you. I am trusting you one last time with the Jedi. Do not attack or engage. If you expose our plan too early, I will kill you myself, Cosmos. Your job is to spy on the new Jedi Order and the Federation." Cosmos bowed and said, "Yes, my master. I will spy on the Jedi, not engage them." Darth Malphus said in a dark tone, "The new Jedi Order and Federation will most likely get locked into the Mandalorian Civil War. Let this distraction give us time to rebuild Dreshdale." Cosmos rose, then asked, "How are we going to rebuild this ruin?" Darth Malphus responded, "The Hutt Cartel has provided construction droids in exchange to set up business in New Dreshdale, a perfect cover for off-worlders who discover the Imperial town and stronghold." Back on Coruscant, gathered in the Jedi Council chambers, Daenerys Tran, Vinshu Blessed, and Senator Silka met with the Council. Grandmaster Alvin Merlin said in an affirmative tone, "The situation in Mandalore has escalated, as most of us have foreseen a civil war. This has started as the planet has become locked into this war. Terrace and several other systems in the Outer Rim have resigned from the Federation. We believe they have been pressured into joining the Hutt Cartel with the use of mercenaries. The vote and motion to aid Mandalore has been won on a minority vote." Vinshu would ask, "What does a win on a minority vote mean, Master?" Master Jeej waved his hand and said, "Support the Mandalorians, they do. But minimal support, they resent." Aranu Ling would elaborate for Master Jeej. "The Federation does not have enough fleets and armies to fight a full-scale war. They admit that the Outer Rim is at risk, but they will send few fleets and armies to assist. Head of State Mikhail has agreed to lead the army if we can breach the blockade. Senator Alexander Sell will lead the Navy. They have asked the new Jedi Order to assist." Molar Questi said calmly, "Master Rickon has volunteered to assist. Commander Moscovici on the ground with a team of Jedi Knights who will help reclaim the palace." Master Kafar responded to Molar Questi's statement. "Master Rickon is a Jedi battle master, best suited to handle situations on the ground. Who has volunteered to assist the Federation Navy?" Wolf Zaius would answer Kavar's question by saying, "Master Nikhil Rutherford has been assigned with a team of Jedi aces to assist Admiral Sell. His experience as a Jedi ambassador will hopefully be able to negotiate a ceasefire to the Civil War. But if not, his team is prepared to engage and dismantle the blockade with the ultimate goal of securing Mandalorian space." Chiron Drago then said, "Daenerys Tran, Vinshu Blessed, and Senator Silka will breach the Mandalorian surface. You will assist the Mandalorian Federation soldiers directly. The goal is to capture Dazzle Street and put an end to the Civil War before it gets any worse." Alvin Merlin spoke gracefully by saying, "We know this mission is a dangerous one, but we feel confident that you and your Padawan are ready for this mission." Daenerys bowed and said, "Yes, masters, we will travel with Senator Silka to Mandalore and will follow the army to the ground but split off to land in Bay 10 to join our Mandalorian allies. Vinshu and Silka bowed. Master Jeed said, May the Force be with you. Danaeus, Vinshu, and Senator Silka accompanied the Federation fleet into the Mandalorian system, piloting X-Wing fighters. As the fleet entered the atmosphere of Mandalorian space, they were locked down onto Mandalorian Fang fighters, and Federation Krustad fleets battled it out as the blockade was broken. A team of Jedi Titan fighters swarmed the space station. The Federation army ships would begin their landing around the palace. Danaeus and Vinshu, as well as Silka, battled their way through the Krustad's Fang fighters and would head for Hangar 10. As they landed on the ground, the walls shook, dust falling from the roof. Commander Itira greeted them by saying, "We thought you were never going to return." Silka responded, "I brought what aid I could, sister." Danaeus Tran said, "The Federation fleet has broken the blockade." Vinshu in upbeat tones said, "Master Nikhil's entered the space station. Admiral Cell's working to secure Mandalorian space. The Federation army has just landed outside of the palace." Commander Atira escorted them out of the hangar and said, "My men are held one block down, and the reinforcements should help us get to the palace. Gunfights in the street have been normal since you guys left." Silka said in a confident tone, "Commander Moscovici and Master Rickon will make sure we pin down Dazzle. Our team here has enough time to capture her." As they got to the end of the block, they saw a small group of Mandalorians behind the blockades firing upon the Krustad forces. Commander Itira rejoined her men, boosting their morale, along with Senator Silka, Danaeus Tran, and Vinshu Blessed, who ignited their lightsabers, charging the line of Mandalorians in turn, leading Commander Itira's forces to push the Krustad Mandalorians into retreating back to the palace. The Jedi and Mandalorian task force would push to the palace, where they would see Federation troops blockading the palace, securing the streets. Commander Itira led her Mandalorians and the two Jedi into the palace. As they fought their way to the throne room, only Commander Itira, Silka, Senator Silka, Danaeus, and Vinshu would be standing as the throne room doors came crashing down. Dazzle Street, Garth Lackness, and two other Mandalorians in their white armor stood in the throne room. Dazzle Street said aloud, "Surrender now, Clan Itira, and I may spare you Federation traitors." Commander Itira shot at her chest plate and said, "You are the traitor, dog." Dazzle's jetpack edged forward as she tackled Commander Itira to the ground. Garth Lackness moved to assault Senator Silka. Two of them became locked in a grappling contest. Danaeus Tran moved to one of Shiza Clan Mandalorians, who fired a single Westgar blaster pistol. Danaeus deflected the shot as he got in close, and the Mandalorian moved backwards. Vinshu had engaged with the last Clan Shiza Mandalorian, blocking his blaster rifle shots, holding his ground. Dazzle Street was beating the commander's head into the ground, trying to get her helmet loose. Commander Itira grabbed her chest plate and knocked her hands together, causing Dazzle to drop beside her, both dazed out by the head collisions. Garth would force Silka back and push her into the glass table, which smashed as she went flying through. Danaeus Tran outsmarted the Clan Shiza Mandalorian. He was battling and getting so close and deflecting that he would outmaneuver him and swing around backwards and swipe, cutting his head clean off. Vinshu would be pushed back to the wall by the last Clan Shiza Mandalorian. Danaeus came to his aid by driving his lightsaber into the Mandalorian jetpack, forcing it to distract the Mandalorian while Vinshu regained his balance, and the two charged the Mandalorian together. Dazzle Street and Commander Itira had returned to their feet, battling it out with their blades since the blast of fire and grappling had failed. Senator Silka regained her composure, but was still under aggressive assault by Darth, who grabbed her head and pulled her by the hair, throwing her into the bookshelf. Vinshu drove his blue lightsaber through the gut of a Mandalorian while Danaeus deflected his final shots. Dazzle Street yelled out in anger and would slice Commander Itira's hand off, then drive her blade right through the center of her neck. Grasping and spitting blood, he could be heard as Commander Itira hit the ground. Senator Silka screamed out, "I am going to kill you, Shiza dog." She unloaded her blaster into Garth and with rage charged forward and pushed him onto the glass table, trying to get Dazzle. Dazzle, seeing that she was outnumbered, tossed a smoke grenade on the ground. Senator Silka and Vinshu would be stunned by Danaeus Tran. which would launch forward using the Force, slicing out her jetpack and preventing her escape. He grabbed onto Dazzle. Garth, on the other hand, saw this as a chance to escape and ditch his sister flying out the window of the palace while retreating Krustad forces. Daenerys Tran would get Dazzle in a vulnerable position with his blade up to her neck and said, "Surrender." Dazzle dropped her blaster pistols. When the smoke settled, the Mandalorian Federation allies had entered the throne room and would secure the capture of Dazzle Street. Senator Silka Atira spoke. "Dazzle Street, you are under arrest for violation of Coruscant Federation treaty laws in accordance with the laws of Mandalore and the Mandalorian government for anarchy, rebellion, conspiracy, and murder of countless innocents, as well as the murder of a commander of the Mandalorian army and the attempted kidnapping of a senator." Dazzle Street remained silent as she was carried off by the Federation soldiers and loaded into a prison vessel. Vinshu looked at Senator Silka and asked, "What do you plan on doing after this?" Senator Silka responded, "We are going to hold a Mandalorian funeral for my sister. After that, I am going to run for Prime Minister of Mandalore and ensure that the rest of Dazzle clan is brought to justice behind bars." Daenerys responded, "I am sure the Senate and Federation will agree with you on this. For now, this crisis has come to an end."